Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Miles Olson podcast. The subject of today's episode is the beauty of rejection. Without further ado, let's begin. So the story that I want to tell today took place about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit longer because there was a lengthy preamble that led up to this moment, but I'm going to try to condense it as much as I can for this episode. But essentially what happened is I became infatuated with a young woman, and I would see her occasionally at the gym that I went to at that time. When I first started seeing her, it's like my heart would just beat really fast. It would feel like it was going to leap out of my chest. And I couldn't speak. I could barely breathe. I couldn't imagine trying to approach this person and speak to them. That was not even a distant possibility in my mind. More than anything, when I initially began to cross paths with this young woman, I kind of just idolized her. I saw her as a goddess type figure. She possessed a quality to her energy and her physical form that was very unique and profound, and it moved me. I found it very beautiful. And it moved me so much. It was both euphoric and kind of terrifying. I felt like I was not this person's equal. Let's be clear. I felt like they were some rarefied being of light, and I was this mere mortal who could barely breathe in her presence. She was kind of just this stunning, beautiful being that I would cross paths with occasionally. And I would try to, maybe nod or something, but I don't think I said hi maybe at all for quite a while because I was so awestruck by this person and their radiance. There was like a strange effect of it kind of making me go blank. Over time, I continued going to the gym and I continued crossing paths with this woman, and I learned how to kind of coexist with her radiance. I didn't start interacting with her or anything. I kind of just was like, I'm going to try to not be around that person, give them their space. This is a gym. This isn't an appropriate place to give voice to the feelings that I'm feeling. So time passed and those feelings faded. And for a while, I stopped going to the gym. I had some things come up in my life where it made sense to just take a break from that. But after several months, I went back to the gym. I had forgotten about that woman. And when I went back, one day I crossed paths with her again. And we made eye contact and we said hi to each other. And I thought to myself, after I had made eye contact with her, after I walked away, I thought, wait a minute. The way that we made eye contact, it's like it felt as though there was some kind of mutual sense of appreciation or attraction or something going on. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I never really entertained that as a possible reality, but I didn't know if I was imagining things or what, but it certainly felt like, wait a minute. Kind of felt like that person might be curious about who I am. They might be drawn to me in some way, in some way like I'm drawn to them. That's sure what it felt like to me. And all of a sudden, those butterflies, all of that excitement, all of the radiance that I'd seen this person in, that all came back and then some. And now there was a slight twist on it in that when I would go to the gym and I would occasionally cross paths with her, we started saying hi to each other more and acknowledging each other, and eventually we even had a conversation, and I couldn't believe it. I was like losing my shit that I actually talked to this person. And in fact, that the day we actually had a conversation and introduced ourselves, and I don't even remember what we talked about. I probably didn't remember 5 minutes later because I was so kind of like euphoric, and I was so infatuated with this person and so excited and moved by the whole experience. I walked outside after it, and I looked up at the sky on my way home, and there was a big rainbow. And I thought to myself, well, that's interesting. That's interesting timing for a rainbow. Um, I took note of it, and I carried on with my business. And I continued going to the gym and occasionally crossing paths with this young woman. And we continued having, little interactions here and there. And one day I was on my way to work, and I was thinking about her, and I was thinking about maybe I should connect, maybe I should ask her if she wants to hang out or something. And I was imagining what it would feel like to connect with her, to hang out with her, to spend more time with her, to learn more about her. And I looked up at the sky, and I saw a big rainbow again. And I thought, what? No way. There's a rainbow again? That's insane. I don't see, rainbows are not like seagulls. I don't see them every time I look at the sky. Like, so I took note of that, and I started to think to myself, is this life speaking to me? Does life want me to connect with this person? Is this a green light from the universe? Anyhow, the story continues. I go to the gym, and eventually I do have that conversation with this woman. I do work up the courage to say, hey, I think you're a really interesting person. I'd love to get to know more about you. And she's like, that sounds great. We decided to hang out. And this is where things take a real interesting turn in the story. The first time we hung out, we made plans, and she was a little shaky in the plan-making process, which is usually not a good sign when someone's kind of non-committal and they change plans at the last minute. It's usually not a good sign, but and that happened in this case. But I thought to myself, don't worry about it. Just have some patience, Miles. Have patience. See what happens. So I had patience. We ended up hanging out after a couple wrong turns, and I think we went for a walk, and we were talking, and it was a very unusual experience for me, because I'm used to, if I have this intense compulsion or this intense draw to somebody, I'm used to just sharing it completely transparently, no holds barred, just letting it loose, just sharing everything I'm feeling. And yet with this woman, when we were hanging out, I could feel a wall up with her. It felt like there was not a green light to engage in that level of openness. And in fact, when we were hanging out, not only did I feel like a closeness and a wall that was separating us, it kind of felt like she was judging me the whole time we were together as well. It was quite surprising and a little disorienting. We had a conversation that was fine. I guess it was positive. Like, I don't know, like maybe to someone who's not got big expectations, it would have been a fine interaction. And I didn't have big expectations as far as anything happening between us, but the interaction was quite closed off and disconnected, and the kind of completely transparent emotional sharing that I'm used to in that type of situation, it didn't feel right at all to engage in that, because this person felt like they were a few steps removed, and it's hard to describe exactly what I was feeling, but I just knew, like, oh, do not do a bunch of gushy sharing towards this person about how you've been thinking about them. They feel like that they're already kind of like on edge and closed off, and that's just gonna like kind of make a bigger gulf open up. That was my sense, and I think it was probably right. So I was quite confused after this first interaction, but because the feelings I felt towards this woman were so unusual and strong, I was like, hey, maybe this is just going to take some time. I've got patience. I got all the time in the world. If this is actually going to lead to some kind of connection with this person, I can be patient. After that first hangout, it was a while, maybe a week or something, a couple texts here and there, maybe saying hi to each other at the gym. And then I reached out again and I said, hey, do you want to hang out again? And I think we hung out again. And again, it was kind of like difficult to pin down a time and a place. It felt like I was like really gung ho to connect, and she was a little more like, not, maybe this would be a nice thing, maybe not, take it or leave it. So it was a little disconcerting to a part of me. It was like, man, I'm so open to this person. I'm so drawn to them. I'm so excited about them. And again, when we hung out, it was the same dynamic of like her feeling like there was this wall up. I would see these little glimmers of openness. Like in our texting or when we were together, there would be these glimmers of like, I would make eye contact with her and she would be completely open, or she would all of a sudden start asking me these very engaging, deep questions. There was all of this openness. But by and large, there was a wall. There would be these little flickers of openness, and then the wall would be back. And again, when we were hanging out, the second time, I felt that same kind of pause. I think I shared like, hey, I'm excited about hanging out with you, so on and so forth. But it felt like I couldn't share the completeness of what was going on inside of me, the excitement, the anxiety, the curiosity, the confusion, the overwhelm. There wasn't a place to do that level of sharing with this person yet. It just didn't, it felt like it would be a wrong thing to do. So I held these feelings in with her. And then I also was aware that I was way more excited to connect, at least more expressive of my excitement to connect than she was. But the story continues. After that second hangout, maybe we hung out another time, I'm not sure, I don't remember. But then there started to be a series of, I guess, rejections. I texted her and asked, hey, how you doing? She said she was doing well. I asked if she'd like to hang out sometime soon. And then once we started to make plans there, all of a sudden there was just complete silence on her side of this texting conversation. It was just crickets. And I was very confused by this. It was such an unusual thing for me to experience, and not a good sign when someone you're making plans with someone and they just bounce. They just like check out, and there was just silence. And about a week later, I thought, okay, that was weird. Maybe something came up for her. Just check in. So I reached out and I said, hey, how you doing? She said, I'm great. And I said, oh, awesome. Would you like to hang out sometime? And then the exact same thing happened. We started to kind of make a plan, and then crickets. Before that could kind of come into form, she just went silent again. And again, I was like, ouch, what's going on? This hurts. This is so painful because I'm a communicator. So to me, silence can be fucking torturous. And as you can imagine, I was very excited about this person. So there was a level of vulnerability just in reaching out to say, hey, would you like to hang out? So this silence is torturous. But again, keep on telling myself through this, Miles, just be patient. This is a different kind of person. You can't just share everything. They seem to have some hesitations and walls up, and you got to be patient with this person. So there's just silence. And I wait another week, and then I reach out, and again, almost the exact same thing happens. I say, hey, how you doing? She says she's good. And then we start to set up a plan or whatever. And then before that can come into form, silence. And this time, when the silence happened, something just died. And it felt actually amazing. It felt really good. The best way for me to describe it is if our connection, the connection that I had with this woman, was a ball of light, it's like that light just went out because I had shown up to that connection on many occasions now and being rejected or not reciprocated. There was just too many bruises to this light, and it just went away. So where before I had been thinking, does it make sense to reach out to this person again after they've shown that they're not really interested, or they are and they aren't interested, and I'm very interested? Does it make sense? All of a sudden, after this final rejection, I didn't have to think about it. It was just done. It was like some emotional shift was just done inside of me. And I felt grateful. It felt like I was kind of being taken care of in some sense because she / life had made it so obvious that this was not happening, Miles. Whether you wanted to be friends with this woman or something else, it just ain't happening. And there was still a little bit of anguish just because I'm such a communicator and there was no ability to communicate clearly what was going on her end or my end. But that was a thread that had run through this entire experience. Whereas normally I am this effusive oversharer, and I think that's really amazing. It's definitely very preferable to the opposite. It can open up so much. In this situation, because of her hesitations and restraint and blocks and the wall I felt up, it consistently felt like my kind of complete transparency would have been too much for her. It would have scared her off. And maybe that would have been a good thing to do right off the bat. I would have saved myself some suffering if I had just been my effusive self and scared this person off right away. But, the strange thing about this whole experience and the amazing thing and the reason I'm telling the story is that after it all happened, when I kind of sat down and reflected on it, I reminded myself that even though this turned out to be kind of just this slow grinding rejection, I had felt initially that I was kind of guided to it. Like life was guiding me to this doorway, to this woman. Even the magnetism that I felt towards her was very unusual and incredibly strong. And then to have these synchronistic events like those rainbows, and there were other ones as well that I didn't share, as some kind of confirmation or some evidence that life was giving me the green light. It was saying, yes, open this door. Connect with this person, experience what's here. The fact that what was behind that door was this slow, grinding rejection, I, upon reflection, think is kind of amazing. Because what happened during that whole experience is that I felt all of these feelings. I felt this intense excitement, vulnerability, insecurity, ecstasy, joy, nervousness. And instead of being able to share all of that with this woman, I had to contain it inside myself. because I kept on getting like a red light from her. I kept on feeling this wall. She kept on being unavailable or uninterested in a certain type of sharing. I couldn't share those feelings and get her support in them. I couldn't ground them by sharing them and then feeling validated by her. Instead, I had to hold it all in me and do that for myself. And I did do that for myself because it was so intense to feel those feelings and not be able to do anything with them. So I had to contain all of that intensity and take care of it myself, comfort it myself, ground it myself, show it a bigger perspective myself, and not get a woman to take care of those feelings for me. And it felt like some new thing inside of me grew, this additional level of self-reliance, emotional responsibility. It was extraordinary. And I've been able to exercise that a lot since then. In all of my romantic or pseudo-romantic experiences since then, I have had this muscle online inside of me. So I'm incredibly grateful for that wonderful rejection. Something so brilliant, this extraordinary, beautiful person and energy that I was so drawn to, and that kind of was painfully not reciprocating that level of interest or openness. It was absolutely extraordinary. And I think a lot of what we experience as rejection in life can hold these beautiful, beautiful gifts for us if we're paying attention while we walk through it. That is the long-winded way of me sharing my experience with life, ushering me down the pathway of rejection so that it would grow some beautiful new emotional strength within me. I'm very grateful for it, and I hope you enjoyed the story. I think that's all for today, so thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Until then, take care.